Boom, we are live. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to the Nolan Hawkeye Anthony YouTube channel. I thank all of you for being here, wherever you may be and however you may be listening. So this will be a quick video. I wanted to do a quick Iowa basketball talk. So I'm a man of my word. I told you guys when I did the video on Fran McCaffery, uh, detailing and discussing the rumors that had been put down with Fran McCaffery. And if you guys remember, uh, you know, uh, Iowa disappointingly did not make the NCAA tournament. A lot of fans believe they had the talent to do so. Personally, I still believe that they did. Um, which there's another new piece of evidence that is in plain sight that I will get to as to why this Iowa team should have made the NCAA tournament. And then, PMAC and Tony Perkins both decided to transfer. The biggest one that was a fairly big blow, depending on who you ask, not necessarily to me, was PMAC deciding to. I mean, both of them were blows in different ways. But, Patrick deciding to go to a different school, no longer play for his dad, was eyebrow raising to a lot of people. And then you add that with the fact that the youngest boy didn't want to play with Iowa. You add the fact that Fran McCaffery's been there for years. And then there was an article about him possibly leaving. There was a lot that was there. And to this day, I think it's possible Fran McCaffery considered leaving. As I said in the video, that's likely what every coach does. If you guys don't think that every coach, just like most average, everyday human beings, citizens in America, do not keep their eyes peeled out for a better situation, a better job, a better position, you're fooling yourself. And especially with the coaching situation or the landscape of coaching, of course coaches do that. But as I said in the original rumor mill video that I did not personally think that Fran McCaffery was going to leave. I thought I gave it like a 70-30 chance that he was going to return versus leave. And it looks like that is the case. Fast forward several months, and we haven't really heard much about it from that initial article or tweet that was put out by some basketball insider. Iowa has been hot on the recruiting trail in the portal. I would say that this is as active as they have been in the transfer portal as they have been in a long time. I mean, I would say for the past 3 years, there has been multiple prospects that Iowa is reportedly in on. But this year, I mean, there's been tons and tons. I mean, there's been at least 10 to 15 prospects that Iowa has legitimately gone after and tried to get visits from, namely at the forward and point guard positions. Iowa has since landed 4-star, according to Rivals, and on 3 point guard or combo guard, but I think he is coming to Iowa as a point guard. Drew Thelwell, who is an assist machine. He's really a strong all around lead guard with strong all around stats. Just quickly on him, my only concern with him is that traditionally, the only guard that has done well. Well, let's think about the point guards that have played with Fran McCaffery. I mean, and the ones that have seen minutes. You have Anthony Clemens and Mike Gazelle. You have Tony Perkins. You have Jordan Bohannon. Joe Toussaint. But really, the two point guards that span the longest would be Mike Gesell and Jordan Bohannon. And it just, to me, and maybe this is not true as I'm kind of reviewing it in my head as we talk right now, it seems like athletic guards who maybe have some work to do as far as shooting goes don't, by and large, work out at Iowa. But now that I'm reviewing it in my head, really the only point guard that Iowa has had that has been a consistent three-point shooter has been Jordan Bohannon. So I'm not sure that that's necessarily true. And I think with Tony Perkins, we have seen that a bigger athletic guard can work just fine within Fran McCaffery's system, with the majority of their points being mid-range and below. So fast forward, and that's where we're at. It looks like Fran McCaffery is going to stay. Iowa of late is in on Manhattan forward. I'm going to see if I can get it pulled up here. They missed out on Matt Cross, who came from, let's see here. I'm going to get my shared screen. They missed out on Matt Cross. I was really hoping that they were going to land this guy, but they didn't. He came UMass, that's right. And the new forward that Iowa is in on is, let's see. And we're going to be reviewing this article here about Payton Sandfort, and that's going to be my main thing that I discuss with regards to why Iowa should have made the NCAA tournament. But their latest target is forward Sadao Traore, which I would actually really, really like this pickup. He was a late entry into the portal. He has multiple years of eligibility. A lot of the guys that Iowa was in on at the forward position were guys with only a year left of eligibility. And I got to tell you, while you're more likely to get an immediate impact from a guy that has proven that they can play at the Division I level, there's something to be said about a guy like this who can theoretically grow with your program and still has shown a decent amount of success in their only 1 or 2 years at the Division I level. This guy averaged double digits in his freshman year. I would really, really like this pickup if they got him. I'm going to go ahead and show you guys his scoring total as this loads up here. So just briefly, as we're going to read, there is a new article that has come out about Payton Sandfort and his new basketball recruiting, or not recruiting, his NBA recruit, or come on, Nolan, his recruiting profile. Oh my gosh. His NBA draft profile. Sorry, guys. I was trying to get this pulled up. As you guys can see here, he averaged 11.8 points per game in his freshman year. He's from New York. 8.2 rebounds, 2.3 assists. The only problem with that for me is I really like the front court that Iowa does have. I think it has a ton of talent and a ton of upside with Owen Freeman. You're going to have Cooper Koch coming in, Chris Tadjo coming in, Pryce Sandfort. Possibly Iowa would have Payton Sandfort again next year. And then you have Lajai Dembele. Iowa is like set moving forward at the forward position. The position group that they absolutely had to go after was the point guard position this offseason. That is what they had to go off of. So the one drawback to getting a guy like this is if he does work out, because he has multiple years of eligibility, that could impede on the younger guys that you have within your program that chose you right out of high school. And, some guys that does resonate with some guys, especially recruits that you're trying to get in the future. If you become known as a school that will just as readily get into the portal to get guys that will take your spot, even if you have been with the school since your freshman year or straight coming out of high school, it could damage your ability to recruit slightly from the high school ranks. But that's the only downside if Iowa lands that guy. So that's an update there. I think this is likely one of the last prospects that Iowa will legitimately go after at the forward position. And I think the positives outweigh the one negative that I can see if they land him. Either way, at the end of the day, you try to improve your roster from top to bottom, and landing this guy would definitely improve Iowa's roster. Not to mention that the Big Ten is going to be stupid hard next year with the newcomers of Oregon, UCLA, and USC and Washington. So here is the article. Payton Sandfort emerged as one of Iowa's best players and leaders throughout the last basketball season. NBA teams have certainly taken notice as Sandfort going through the NBA process. The senior to be has one season of eligibility remaining, but he could be facing a legitimate decision about whether to return or not. Following the NBA lottery, ESPN released the latest version of its 2024 NBA mock draft. They have Iowa Star going number 35 overall to the San Antonio Spurs. Guys, that's nearly a first-round draft pick. That's early second round. I mean, let's look at the last year's NBA draft. Sorry, guys. The reason why I paused there is because I could hear. So let's look at last year's NBA draft, 2023 NBA draft. So there's 58 selections. So 35 would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 picks from the first round. 5 or 6, I guess. So no, it'd be 5. 1, 2, well, no, it'd be 6. 1, because you'd have to be 30th. So it'd be no, I guess it would be 5. Because if you don't land in the second round, then you land in the first. If you're the 30th pick or one of the top 30 picks, then you'd be in the first round. So he's 5 picks from the first round. Okay. He was drafted similar. The prognostication is so similar to Colby Jones, Jalen Pickett, Andre Jackson Jr. So that's pretty high, guys. If Payton Sandfort gets drafted, that would leave Iowa. Let's see, Joe Wieskamp. I don't think Tyler Cook ended up getting drafted. Joe Wieskamp, Luka Garza, and the Murray twins. That would leave Iowa with 5 NBA draft picks in the last like 5 or 6 years. Not bad, guys. Not bad. So it looks like he is facing a legitimate decision. His draft prospects continue to rise, and I did have a suspicion that they would, because Payton Sandfort is exactly what the modern NBA is looking for. A guy that is 6'6" or above, because the modern NBA is wing dominated. And the modern NBA specifically is 3 and D wing dominated. Now, is Payton Sandfort necessarily a D type of guy? Maybe not. But he does work hard. He can rebound. He's willing to get down and dirty and rebound. The modern NBA is far more skill oriented. It still is highly athletic, but it is far more spacious and skill oriented than it ever has been in the history of the NBA. So guys like a JJ Redick, like a Payton Sandfort can make it. I mean, we see with the modern influx of European players, we see all kinds of guys that are not the most athletic guys in the world, but are highly skilled, making it in the NBA. So I had a funny feeling that a guy like Payton Sandfort, who so effortlessly is able to shoot the ball. I mean, Payton Sandfort literally has one of the quickest releases in the entire country, and that includes the NBA. It's an effortless three-point shot that requires minimal separation for him to get a legitimately good look. Now, even if he's drafted 35th, is Payton Sandfort likely going to be expected to be like an immediate plug and play type of guy? No. The upside, the ceiling for a Payton Sandfort is a guy who can be a legitimate rotational piece that can come in as a three-point specialist and give you 20 to 30 minutes a night. Okay. That's the ceiling for a guy like Payton Sandfort, a guy that can come in and immediately improve the three-point shooting of your roster as a whole. So I'm not surprised by it. He has a legitimate decision to make. My assessment on it is as follows. Honestly, guys, I don't think Payton Sandfort really could improve his draft stock all that much if he were to return to Iowa. I think at the most, I mean, let's just say hypothetically that he does indeed go 35th overall. If he, let's just say hypothetically that he chose to stay and he went 35th overall to the San Antonio Spurs, which, by the way, I can see it. I know it didn't work out for Joe Wieskamp, which to this day, to me, is kind of surprising. It seemed like a match made in heaven. The problem Joe Wieskamp had is his shot is kind of slow, and in the NBA you have to have a quick release. Either that, or you have to have a shot kind of like Nikola Jokic that's kind of hard and nearly impossible to block due to where the ball is positioned. Let's say hypothetically that Payton Sandfort stays in the NBA draft and goes 35th overall. Okay. Or let's rather that would indeed happen if he decides to stay, that he would go 35th. Okay. Let's grant that, or he decides to return. But if he didn't, he would indeed go 35th. I think it would be very hard for him to improve his draft stock. I don't think that Payton Sandfort, given his player profile, which is a three-point shooting specialist, a three-point shooting specialist wing at 6'7", which is kind of in the NBA a tweener between the shooting guard and small forward position. He's a shooting guard in smaller or bigger lineups and a small forward in smaller lineups. Okay. Or is that correct? Yeah. Let's say that is the case. I don't think, given all of that Payton Sandfort, even if he came back to Iowa and averaged 25 points a game, I don't think that it would improve his draft stock that much. At most, I think if he came back and went buck wild and had a Luka Garza type year, that at most he would improve to a bottom round one type player at most. And even still, I think he would still likely remain a second round selection. You guys got to understand what all of these players, including the NFL, is worried about is not cashing their chips in when they are at the highest total. Okay. That is, their biggest fear is not getting out of the casino when they are winning, aka when the execs, the NBA and NFL execs and scouts opinion are at its highest, at its peak for that particular player in their assessment. So with that said, I really do hope that Payton Sandfort returns, because I don't think that if he returns that it will hurt him. I just don't think it would help him. I think regardless, NBA scouts know what type of player he is. what he will give them in the NBA, which is a guy who will be a three-point specialist, will rebound, will work hard, will be a good teammate, will be a good locker room guy, and that's essentially it. Okay, which are all valuable things. So obviously, I want him to return, but I got to tell you guys, it's looking less and less likely. If indeed the feedback that he is getting is that he's going to be around a 30, like a 35th overall pick, like 25th to 40th, I think Payton Sandfort is going to decide to cash in on those chips and decide to go pro and keep his name in the NBA draft. So if that happens, Iowa will even more be in the portal and will definitely try to get another piece. If he decides to go, even though Iowa has a really talented young roster, I think next year it would depend on who they bring in, who they're able to bring in from the portal. But let's just say they're able to bring in like a guy that's slightly below what Ben Krikke was. Even if they were able to bring in another Ben Krikke or Philip Obracha, who was an immediate contributor to their team, I think it would be difficult, not impossible, but difficult for this team to make the NCAA tournament. The Iowa would need to see significant leaps from some of their freshman players. The problem that Iowa has is because they lost Tony Perkins, outside of Payton Sandfort, there is no the guy currently on the roster. There's no the guy on this roster. So lastly, I told you guys I would tell you guys this. The reason why, so I just told you guys that Payton Sandfort's draft stock is getting higher and higher. What you're seeing surrounding Payton Sandfort's draft stock is yet more proof that Iowa was talented enough to make the NCAA tournament. Iowa was able to make the NCAA tournament without any NBA draft picks in the past under Fran McCaffery. And you take it all into account, the fact that Payton Sandfort was good enough to be considered an NBA draft prospect, a solid NBA draft prospect. You take that into account. You take into account that Iowa's freshman class overall overperformed the expectations that everybody around the country had for them. You take into account that Tony Perkins met and at times exceeded what the preseason expectations were for him. You take into account that not only did the freshman class exceed, but Owen Freeman specifically turned into a Big Ten Freshman of the Year player. You take into account Josh Dick's development, especially late in the season. You take into account that Ben Krikke came to Iowa and delivered on the expectations. Now, I've done a thorough analysis of this. Ben Krikke, to me, was kind of a bit of a roller coaster. At times, he exceeded my expectations. At times, he was far below. Ben Krikke, when you look at his one season at Iowa, is basically a tale of beginning of the season Ben Krikke and Big Ten towards the end of the year Ben Krikke. Towards the end of the year, let me go back. At the beginning, Ben Krikke was basically a guaranteed 15 to 25 point a night scorer. Once it got into Big Ten play, especially towards the end, Ben Krikke consistently was scoring under 10 points a night because the athleticism and the size of the Big Ten really did hurt him. And he was more comfortable playing as a small 5 than he was as a 4, where he went up against even more athletic people, because as an undersized 5, you can use your athleticism and agility to work around some of the bigger and less mobile bigs. But when you're a 4, you might be taller, which he really wasn't because he was only 6'9". And there's a lot of power forwards that is 6'8", 6'9" in the Big Ten, but they're a step up as far as athleticism goes. Think about it. It's the difference between a Nikola Jokic and a Brandon Ashley, or is that his name? let me see. I got to pull it up. The guy that's on the Denver Nuggets. It's the other guy. It's the other guy that's on the Denver Nuggets. So, regardless, you take all of that into account, and I am even more firm now that Iowa should have made the NCAA tournament this year, and this will go down. Sorry, guys, I have Dexter. I don't know if you guys ever seen that show playing on my iPad. Aaron Gordon. It's the difference between Nikola Jokic as a center and those type of athletes and size versus a Aaron Gordon who's 6'9" but can jump out of the gym. That's the difference between the center and power forward positions. So, anyways, I am firm, and this is yet more evidence. Payton Sandfort being a solid first round likely pick, or not first round, a solid NBA likely draft pick is more evidence that this Iowa team should have made the NCAA tournament. If you have an NCAA, or excuse me, an NBA caliber player on your team, you should you should make the NCAA tournament, because there's only 50, there's only really in college basketball 40 of those type of guys in the entire country. So anyways, guys, like, comment, share, subscribe, and last but not least, DBAP, don't be a pussy will in facts or feelings, because your feelings still matter. Help your boy get to 2,000 subs. Let's get there, guys. We're very close. Love you guys. See you guys next time. Go Hawks. Peace.